Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Spar, and today I wanted to talk about this one quote that I heard from my coach Lori. This was, last year and a half ago. I think it was in 2023, it might have been 2022, that comes from Zig Ziglar. What he is quoted in saying is, you don't need to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. This really resonates with me. If you have heard any of the previous podcasts, one of the things I'm not afraid to mention is how I often struggle with a perfectionistic tendency of expecting myself to do things perfectly the first time. And that's not always a good thing. In fact, I would say more often than not, it's not a good thing, period. And this is a quote that I remind myself of every morning. Every morning, I am reminding myself that I don't have to be great to start, but I do have to start to be great. A great example of this are two of the three recent podcasts. The audio quality was not the greatest, and I will admit they were not the greatest in those episodes. And the reason why is because I was working with a new setup, and I didn't realize how much background noise was going to get caught up in the mic when I recorded those two. And I recorded those two pretty much back to back and didn't check if there was anything bizarre about it. Now, I could have torn myself apart because I made this mistake of recording these two podcasts that had a ton of background noise. In my time producing this podcast and producing many videos before then, one of the things that I have learned is you can do incredible things in order to fix audio, and at the same time, to get the best audio requires you to have the best audio to start with. So for the hero study of Rocky Balboa and the Question Your Failures podcasts, I found myself with a ton of background noise getting picked up by my computer. I did not realize when I was recording those with this new setup that all of this background noise of the fans running on my laptop were going to get caught in the mic. And I tried my best. I'm not an audiophile by any means, and they came out with me sounding a little tinny. That tends to happen when you try and take out audio. And I could have beat myself up about it, or torn myself to pieces, as I said. In fact, if it wasn't for allowing myself to be reminded and almost meditate on this quote, that you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great, I wouldn't have even launched this podcast. Why? Because the first episodes were not perfect. And this is where my coach Lori was really hammering a point home talking about this. For anyone who starts something like a podcast or a TV series, YouTube channels, or even book franchises or book series, one of the things that often happens is we continue to develop our craft as we continue producing and becoming creative and stretching ourselves, that most people would not want to go back and listen to or read the first things that they produced. Why? Because they don't sound great compared to what is being produced now. Knowing that, I could have said, I'm not ready to launch this podcast. Why? I don't know that much about audio. I don't know what makes good audio. I don't know how to fix bad audio. I kind of know, but I'm not great at it. And instead of telling myself, I have to learn more, I have to do more in order to make this work, what I did was I told myself, we just need to start. And it's going to be how it's going to be in the beginning. The podcast, my mannerisms, my voice, all of these things are going to not be all that great at the beginning as I'm trying to figure myself out in this realm of podcasting. Same thing happened with the YouTube channel that Libby and I used to run. If I were to go back and watch some of the earlier videos, I would probably cringe because, it was a rough start. My insecurities very much showed in those videos. And yet, I had to start somewhere. I had to just start in order to establish my foundation. And that's something that's a little difficult for someone like me. I am one of those who would much rather read and study and learn in order to gain the knowledge that to me is the foundation of what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it properly, instead of bumbling my way through and learning as I go. This often turns into an analysis paralysis, where I spend so much time researching and reading and trying to figure it out that I end up effectively paralyzing myself because I'm so overwhelmed with the knowledge and I don't know how to apply it. That's where this quote really helped me, and the pushing that I received from Lori, that it doesn't matter if it comes out perfectly in the beginning. In fact, guess what? It's not. It's not going to come out perfectly in the beginning. We have to start somewhere, though. Those of you watching the video will notice that I'm starting to grow a little more of a beard instead of just the one on my chin that I've had for months now. And there is a part of me that is almost embarrassed to show all of this stubble, this 3-day stubble that I have, because it doesn't look great right now. And instead of telling myself, you know what, just take a break from the podcast until the beard grows in, it is what it is. It needs to start somewhere. It needs to start somewhere in order for it to become what I want it to be in the end, which honestly, I don't know what that is yet. I'm just trying to grow it out to give myself a canvas to work with. Everything needs to start somewhere. Whether we're talking about growing out facial hair, or starting a podcast, writing a screenplay, whether we're talking about a relationship, starting a relationship, moving a relationship to the next phase, whether we're talking about a job, whether we're talking about a family, whether we're talking about adopting animals or pets, whether we are talking about writing a book or starting a business. We need to start somewhere. Every grand novel, every spectacular movie, every play, every business that you have seen on your commute or that you visit as you're running errands, they all had to start somewhere. And many of them have these desires and aspirations to be something grand. Not every business is going to be the next Amazon. Yet even Amazon has its own humble beginnings of how the business started. If you find yourself stuck in this pattern of becoming paralyzed because you don't know what to do, then I encourage you with the same words that encouraged me. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. If you don't start, we know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to go nowhere. There are many people who have had unsuccessful business ventures. I know around here, there are so many people who have tried to start a business, and I see businesses starting up and then closing down, and then a new one takes its place, and then after a while that one closes down, and it's this cycle. Most of these people absolutely desired and wished and even hoped that their business would be able to thrive. And yet, with all of the ones that don't, these people are at least able to tell themselves they tried. If they didn't try, they would have the result of nothing. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If we don't try, or if we allow fear to come in and tell us that we're not ready, we're not qualified, then we know where that outcome is going to be. It's right where we are right now. It's why I continue to have a book that hasn't been published yet. I'm sorry if me talking about my book progress or lack thereof is becoming tiresome at this point. It also happens to be a great example for many of the things that I talk about. Once again, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. It makes me wonder, what is it? What is that dream that you have been putting off? That dream, that desire, that passion that continues to be pushed aside, put on the back burner. I'll get to it one day because you're not ready for it yet. Whatever the excuse is, I don't know enough. I need to take care of this degree that I'm working towards. Maybe it's even just trying to go back to school in order to get a degree. Maybe that's what you're putting off. Maybe it's something with a family. Got to make sure that all the kids get through school before I start working on whatever this passion project is. It's more of just a hobby more than anything else. It's not really going to bring any kind of financial stability to my situation, so I'd better focus on my job instead and make sure that I am financially secure. We have innumerable excuses that we will tell ourselves, and don't get me wrong, these are all good reasons. We want to be financially secure. We want to make sure that we have food on the table. We want to make sure that we have a roof over our heads. We want to make sure that all of our basic needs are taken care of. And that is important because if we are not meeting our basic needs, we are not going to be the most creative when we're just figuring out how to make it from one month to the next. At the same time, one of the things that I want to challenge is this notion that maybe this passion project is exactly what you need right now. I know that as much as I find myself dreading the thought of having to go back and look at some of these stories, these novels that I've written, I know as soon as I sit down and I start working on them and I start writing or I start editing, I improve them, I really do come alive. I enjoy that experience. I love creating. And at the same time, I have a lot of fear that makes me forget how much I come alive when I engage with these creative endeavors. There are several things I've wanted to do. Right now, I'm preparing my Dungeons and Dragons group to get back into a campaign that I started 3 years ago, and we took a break to do an Avatar The Last Airbender role-playing game. We only made it halfway through the campaign, so now we're going to do the other half. I'm having fun preparing some of these things that aren't even a part of the campaign. I added them on my own. My friends are getting excited to get back into this. I have my own tabletop role-playing game that I've wanted to develop. I have my books. I've mentioned those several times now. I have a desire to learn archery. And I have an archery backdrop in my backyard. And I haven't used it for years. I have wanted to try my hand at blacksmithing. Some of these are things I can absolutely do right now. Some of them, like the blacksmithing, that's going to take some capital to begin with. And more space than what I have in the backyard right now. Yet, that doesn't mean that I can't just start toying around with some of these ideas. What's holding me back from my novel writing? I'm going to be embarrassed that it's not good enough? I only know of one author who has ever submitted a first draft as the final draft. I don't know how the guy does it. Most people, when they are working on some kind of creative pursuit, it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes a willingness to put yourself out there. And those are things that I keep saying, I'll get to that later. I don't need to worry about that right now because recording these podcasts is more important. Because whatever the excuse happens to be, there's so many reasons why I'm doing something else. And deep down, the reasons why all boil down to one thing. I am afraid that it's not going to be great to start. That people are not going to like it. That there's going to be some rejection. That I will be criticized. Kind of hard to get away from that. Especially in our more connected than ever society that we live in. I'm not going to please everyone. And so I allow fear to hold me back. I allow fear to hold me back. I allow fear to tell me this isn't ready, you can make it better. And then I sit on it like it's going to be some kind of nest egg. And it doesn't do anything. And I am still in the same place I was last year. This is why I remind myself, even this morning, that I don't need to be great to start. But if I want to be great, then I do have to start. That's the only way I'm going to do any of these things that I really want to do, is I have to start. In order to do the things that are important for you, the passions that you have, and fulfill the desires that you have, that means you have to start as well. And that is what I want to encourage you on today. I want to encourage you to start, whatever that looks like. I encourage you to start that draft, to prepare that canvas, to even just write down the title of the screenplay on a document, to get that resume out, to apply for that position, to take that brave step and say, hey, what would you feel about going and getting a coffee together? I encourage you to have those tough conversations, to do the hard work of just starting. As a writer, one of the things that I can be paralyzed by is a blank document. Maybe that means you start just writing gibberish in the beginning just to get rid of all of that white void that is intimidating. Start somewhere. Because for us to get where we want to go, we have to start. If we don't start, then we're effectively a computer without an operating system. We are going nowhere. We are going to do nothing. And we know what's going to happen. I've said it several times. Right where we're at, that's where we are going to remain. If we don't start, that's where we're going to remain. Whatever it is that you want to start, whatever is going to help you come alive, what is going to reignite that passion inside of you, or what is going to get rid of that hang-up that keeps getting in the way of whatever you are trying to do, it is important to just start. That is where you're going to find greatness. Not that you're going to find greatness and then start. Even the most devoted athlete has practiced for hours and hours, for years of their life to get where they are now. Even the most well-known author has received rejection letter after rejection letter. Every great video game out there has started with the idea and followed through with developing it. That is not going to guarantee that you have the results of your efforts. However, you are not going to have any results and any growth if you remain stuck where you are at. So take that step. Take that brave step and start. And we will end this where it started. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And until next time, live strong for today. Thanks so much for watching or listening to this podcast. If you like what you're hearing, then give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. If you are interested in working with me, then take a look in the description where you can find my website or a link just to schedule a free 50-minute one-on-one call with me. Looking forward to talking with you soon.